Take a moment, if you will, to look around you. Consider the devices that have become indispensable extensions of our lives, the sleek smartphone nestled in your hand, the intuitive tablet resting on your lap, or the vibrant computer screen before your eyes. It's almost impossible to imagine a world without them, isn't it? These aren't just mere gadgets, they are powerful tools that connect us across continents, enable us to create art and innovation, and inspire us to explore new frontiers of knowledge. And at the very heart of this profound digital revolution, meticulously shaping its essence and trajectory, stood one extraordinary man, Steve Jobs. He was far more than just a CEO, a tech titan, or a brilliant inventor. Steve Jobs was, in many ways, an artist who painted with pixels and circuit boards, a relentless disruptor who challenged every established convention, and a visionary who possessed an uncanny ability to see the future not merely as it might be, but as he believed it should be. His journey, from the humble garage in Los Altos where Apple was first conceived, to the grand, almost theatrical stages where he unveiled products that seemed to defy imagination, was a relentless pursuit of perfection. It was a thrilling saga marked by breathtaking triumphs, devastating setbacks that would test his very spirit, and an unyielding, almost spiritual belief in the transformative power of technology to empower humanity. In this comprehensive biography, we invite you to look beyond the often mythologized public persona and discover the real Steve Jobs. We will delve into the formative years of the curious boy tinkering endlessly in his father's garage, the rebellious college dropout who found unexpected inspiration in the elegant strokes of calligraphy, the defiant entrepreneur who was famously ousted from the very company he had co-founded, and ultimately, the triumphant leader who returned to rescue Apple from the brink of collapse and then, against all odds, reshape the entire world. His story isn't just a dry chronicle of silicon and software. It's a deeply human narrative about passion that bordered on obsession, unwavering perseverance in the face of adversity, and the sheer audacity to think differently. It is a story whose profound echoes continue to resonate in every tap, swipe, and click of our modern digital lives. Join us as we embark on this journey through the extraordinary life of Steve Jobs, truly, the architect of our digital lives. Part 1: The Formative Years. Chapter 1: Beginnings and Early Influences. Every extraordinary life has an origin story, a set of circumstances and influences that shape the individual who will eventually leave an indelible mark on the world. For Steve Jobs, that story began not with a grand announcement, but with a quiet adoption in the heart of what would soon become Silicon Valley. Born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, to Joanne Carol Schiebel and Abdul Fattah Jandali, a Syrian political science professor, the infant was given up for adoption. He found his home with Paul and Clara Jobs, a loving couple who would provide him with a stable, if unconventional, upbringing. Paul, a machinist, and Clara, an accountant, offered a modest, working-class life in Mountain View, California. It was here, amidst the burgeoning orchards and nascent electronics companies, that young Stephen Paul Jobs would take his first steps. Paul Jobs, a man with a passion for mechanics and a meticulous eye, played a pivotal role in shaping Steve's early curiosity. He taught Steve how to work with his hands, how to take things apart and put them back together, often in their garage. While Steve might not have always shared his father's enthusiasm for cars, he absorbed the fundamental lesson of craftsmanship, that true beauty lay not just in the visible exterior, but in the unseen perfection of the internal components. "He taught me how to build things," Steve would later recall. "He taught me how to take apart and how to put it back together, and how it all fit." This early exposure to the mechanics of things, to the hidden artistry of engineering, would profoundly influence his later obsession with product design and internal aesthetics. School, however, was a different story. Steve was a bright child, but easily bored by traditional classroom settings. He often found himself at odds with rules and conventional teaching methods, sometimes causing mischief to alleviate the monotony. His third-grade teacher, Imogene Hill, famously had to bribe him to study, recognizing his untapped potential and the need for a different approach. It was in these early years that Steve began to exhibit a defiant streak, a questioning of authority, and a desire to forge his own path, traits that would define his entire career. The move to Los Altos, California, and his enrollment at Homestead High School, marked a significant turning point. This was where the counterculture spirit of the 1960s and 70s mingled with the burgeoning tech scene. It was also where he met Stephen Wozniak, a brilliant electronics enthusiast 4 years his senior. Wozniak, or Woz, as he was known, was a kindred spirit, sharing Steve's fascination with electronics and a playful, rebellious approach to technology. Their early projects together, from building blue boxes to make free long-distance calls to tinkering with computers, laid the groundwork for a partnership that would change the world. After high school, Steve's journey took a detour from the conventional academic path. He enrolled at Reed College in Portland, Oregon, a liberal arts institution known for its bohemian atmosphere. His time there was brief. He dropped out after just 1 semester, but profoundly influential. He continued to audit classes, most notably a calligraphy course, which he later credited as the inspiration for the beautiful typography and graphical user interfaces that would become a hallmark of Apple products. This period was also marked by his deep dive into Eastern mysticism, vegetarianism, and a spiritual quest that led him to India in 1974. These experiences broadened his perspective, instilling in him a sense of minimalist design and a belief in intuition that would later manifest in Apple's aesthetic and user-centric philosophy. Upon his return from India, Jobs landed a job at Atari, the pioneering video game company. It was here that he gained valuable experience in the nascent electronics industry, observing firsthand the rapid pace of innovation and the entrepreneurial spirit that permeated Silicon Valley. But even as he worked, the seeds of a much grander ambition were germinating, fueled by his unique blend of technical curiosity, countercultural idealism, and an emerging, almost evangelical, belief in the power of technology to change lives. The stage was being set for a revolution, and Steve Jobs was about to step into the spotlight. Chapter 2: The Spark of Apple. Steve Jobs' return from India and his stint at Atari had sharpened his focus, but the true catalyst for his destiny lay in a partnership forged years earlier. The bond with Stephen Wozniak, or Woz, was more than just a friendship. It was a complementary fusion of raw engineering brilliance and visionary, albeit sometimes chaotic, ambition. Woz was the quiet genius, capable of designing elegant circuits with minimal components, while Steve was the entrepreneur, the marketer, the one who saw the grand potential beyond the wires and chips. Their shared passion for electronics had already led them down intriguing paths, including the creation of blue boxes, devices that mimic telephone tones to make free long-distance calls. These early exploits, while mischievous, were a testament to their ingenuity and their willingness to challenge established systems. But a far more significant challenge was brewing in the mid-1970s, the personal computer revolution. The epicenter of this burgeoning movement was the Homebrew Computer Club, a gathering of hobbyists and engineers in Silicon Valley. It was here that Wozniak, in particular, found an audience for his latest obsession, building his own computer. Unlike the complex, expensive mainframes and mini-computers of the era, Woz envisioned a machine that individuals could own, program, and interact with directly. He designed a circuit board, simple yet revolutionary, that allowed users to type on a keyboard and see characters appear on a screen. He called it the Apple I. When Woz showed his creation to Steve, Jobs immediately recognized its profound potential. While Woz was content to share his designs freely with fellow enthusiasts, Steve saw a product, a business, a way to bring this nascent technology to the masses. The idea was audacious: they would build and sell these circuit boards. The problem? They had no money, no manufacturing experience, and no real business plan beyond Steve's boundless enthusiasm. The legendary garage origin story of Apple Computer Incorporated is more than just a romantic myth. It captures the raw, bootstrapped spirit of their beginnings. Paul Jobs' garage in Los Altos became their makeshift workshop, filled with the smell of solder and the hum of early electronics. To raise capital, Steve sold his Volkswagen van, and Woz parted with his beloved HP scientific calculator. Their first big break came from Paul Terrell, owner of the Byte Shop, a local computer store, who ordered 50 Apple I computers, but he wanted them fully assembled, not just as circuit boards. This forced Jobs and Wozniak to pivot from hobbyists to manufacturers, a daunting leap. The early days were a whirlwind of frantic activity, late nights, and learning on the fly. They sourced components, assembled boards, and packaged their creations, often enlisting friends and family to help. It was a chaotic, exhilarating time, marked by the sheer belief that they were building something important. They officially incorporated Apple Computer Incorporated on April 1, 1976, a date that, in hindsight, seems almost prophetic for a company that would so often defy expectations. The Apple I, despite its crude appearance by modern standards, was a groundbreaking achievement. It was one of the first personal computers to offer a fully assembled circuit board, ready for users to connect a keyboard and monitor. It was a stepping stone, a proof of concept, and most importantly, it was the tangible manifestation of Steve Jobs' conviction that computers could be more than just tools for engineers and scientists. They could be personal, accessible, and ultimately, empowering. The stage was now set, not just for a product, but for a company that would redefine an entire industry. Part 2, The Rise of Apple. Chapter 3, Apple's Ascent and the Macintosh Dream. The Apple I was a humble beginning, a testament to raw ingenuity. But it was the Apple II, launched in 1977, that truly catapulted Apple Computer Incorporated into the mainstream and established it as a formidable player in the nascent personal computer industry. Designed primarily by Steve Wozniak, the Apple II was a marvel of engineering for its time. It was user-friendly, came in an attractive plastic case, a radical departure from the bare circuit boards of its predecessors, and, crucially, offered color graphics. The Apple II wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a commercial phenomenon. Its open architecture allowed for expansion cards, fostering a vibrant ecosystem of third-party developers who created software and hardware for the machine. The killer application that truly cemented its success was VisiCalc, the first spreadsheet program. This software transformed the Apple II from a hobbyist's toy into an indispensable business tool, making it a must-have for small businesses and even some larger corporations. Sales soared, and Apple's growth was explosive. This rapid success culminated in Apple's initial public offering, IPO, in December 1980. It was a monumental event, creating instant millionaires out of Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and many early employees. Jobs, at just 25 years old, found himself a multi-millionaire, a symbol of the new generation of tech entrepreneurs. The garage startup had become a Wall Street darling, and the world was watching. As Apple's fortunes rose, so did Steve Jobs' ambitions. He began to envision the next leap in personal computing, a machine that would be even more intuitive, more beautiful, and truly for the rest of us. This vision initially coalesced around the Lisa project, named after his estranged daughter. The Lisa was an ambitious, high-end computer that incorporated revolutionary graphical user interface, GUI, technology, inspired by a visit to Xerox PARC, where Jobs famously saw the future of computing, icons, windows, and a mouse. However, Jobs' demanding nature and the project's spiraling costs led to his eventual removal from the Lisa team. Undeterred, Jobs turned his boundless energy and charisma to another, more personal project, the Macintosh. This was his baby, his passion project, and he assembled a small, fiercely loyal team, isolating them from the main Apple campus in a separate building, famously flying a pirate flag to symbolize their rebellious spirit. He instilled in them a relentless pursuit of perfection, often pushing them to their limits with his reality distortion field, his ability to convince himself and others to believe in something impossible, and then make it happen. The Mac team worked grueling hours, driven by Jobs' vision of creating a computer that was not just a tool, but a work of art, a bicycle for the mind. The launch of the Macintosh in January 1984 was nothing short of a spectacle. The iconic 1984 Super Bowl commercial, directed by Ridley Scott, depicted a dystopian world shattered by a lone female athlete, symbolizing Apple's Mac breaking IBM's monolithic hold on the computer industry. It was a masterpiece of marketing, generating immense buzz even before the product was unveiled. Jobs' keynote presentation, where he dramatically pulled the Macintosh out of a bag, allowing it to introduce itself by speaking, became legendary. The Mac, with its friendly graphical interface and mouse, was hailed as a breakthrough, a computer that anyone could use. Yet, despite the fanfare and critical acclaim, the Macintosh faced immediate challenges. It was expensive, lacked sufficient software, and was underpowered for many business applications. The initial sales, while respectable, didn't match the revolutionary hype. This, coupled with Jobs' intense and often confrontational management style, began to sow seeds of discord within Apple's rapidly growing corporate structure. The dream was alive, but the reality of running a large, complex company was about to collide head-on with Steve Jobs' uncompromising vision. Chapter 4: Internal Conflicts and Departure. The launch of the Macintosh was a moment of triumph, a testament to Steve Jobs' visionary leadership and the tireless dedication of his team. Yet, beneath the surface of Apple's soaring public image, deep fissures were forming. The very intensity that drove Jobs to create insanely great products also fueled a management style that was becoming increasingly unsustainable within a rapidly expanding, publicly traded corporation. Jobs was a charismatic leader, capable of inspiring his employees to achieve what seemed impossible. He had an uncanny ability to articulate a vision so compelling that people would work around the clock, driven by a shared sense of mission. This was his reality distortion field in action, a powerful blend of charm, persuasion, and unwavering belief that could bend others to his will. However, this same force could also be devastating. He was notoriously demanding, quick to criticize, and could be brutally dismissive of ideas or individuals he deemed inferior. He believed in a small, elite team, and as Apple grew, his methods clashed with the need for more structured management and a broader corporate culture. The growing tensions within Apple were multifaceted. There was the inherent clash between the freewheeling, rebellious spirit of the early Mac team and the more conventional corporate structure that was necessary for a company of Apple's size. There were also significant personality conflicts. Jobs, despite his brilliance, often struggled with interpersonal dynamics, alienating colleagues and even close friends. His perfectionism bordered on obsession, leading to delays and cost overruns that frustrated the company's financial leadership. A central figure in this escalating drama was John Sculley, whom Jobs had famously lured from PepsiCo in 1983 with the challenge, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world?" Sculley, a seasoned marketing executive, was brought in as CEO to provide the operational discipline and business acumen that Apple, and perhaps Jobs himself, lacked. Initially, their partnership was strong, built on mutual respect and a shared vision for Apple's future. However, as the Macintosh struggled to meet sales expectations and Jobs' behavior became more erratic and confrontational, the relationship between Jobs and Sculley began to fray. Jobs, who saw himself as the heart and soul of Apple, resented Sculley's increasing authority and attempts to rein in his projects. Sculley, in turn, found Jobs' management style disruptive and his financial decisions reckless. The board of directors, concerned about Apple's profitability and Jobs' volatile temperament, increasingly sided with Sculley. The conflict came to a head in the spring of 1985. Jobs, feeling marginalized, attempted a coup to oust Sculley. But Sculley, with the backing of the board, moved first. In a dramatic boardroom showdown, Steve Jobs was stripped of all operational responsibilities, effectively sidelined from the company he had co-founded. He was given a largely ceremonial role as chairman, with no real power. The emotional impact on Jobs was profound. It was a devastating betrayal, a public humiliation that cut him to the core. He had poured his life into Apple, and now he was being cast out. He described it as feeling like he had been punched in the stomach. For months, he grappled with what to do next, feeling lost and directionless. But beneath the pain, a familiar spark of defiance and determination began to rekindle. He realized that his passion for innovation was inextinguishable, and if Apple no longer wanted his vision, he would simply create a new canvas. This painful departure, though seemingly a defeat, would ultimately set the stage for his next, unexpected acts of creation. Part 3, The Wilderness Years. Chapter 5, Next, the Second Act. The year 1985 marked a profound personal and professional low point for Steve Jobs. Ousted from the very company he had co-founded, he found himself adrift, grappling with feelings of rejection and uncertainty. Yet, for a man whose life was defined by relentless creation, this period of apparent defeat would prove to be a crucible, forging new resolve and leading him down unexpected paths. The first of these was a venture he named Next. Jobs' initial reaction to his departure from Apple was a mix of anger and a deep sense of loss. But it wasn't long before his entrepreneurial spirit reasserted itself. He quickly realized that his passion for building revolutionary products hadn't diminished. He envisioned a new company that would focus on creating powerful, cutting-edge workstations for the higher education and scientific research markets, a segment he felt Apple had neglected. In September 1985, just months after his ousting, he resigned from Apple and, controversially, took several key Apple employees with him to found Next Inc. The Next Cube, the company's flagship product, was a testament to Jobs' unwavering commitment to design and technological innovation. Housed in a sleek, black, magnesium cube, it was aesthetically striking and technologically advanced. It featured a powerful operating system called NextStep, which was built on a Unix core and incorporated object-oriented programming. This was a radical departure for its time, designed to make software development faster and more efficient. Jobs believed NextStep was years ahead of anything else on the market, including Apple's own operating system. Next's focus was clear: to build machines that were not just computers, but powerful tools for creation and discovery. Jobs poured his characteristic attention to detail into every aspect of the Next Cube, from its industrial design to the packaging. He envisioned it as the ideal platform for universities and researchers to develop the next generation of software. However, despite its technological prowess and Jobs' compelling vision, Next faced significant business challenges. The Next Cube was prohibitively expensive, making it inaccessible to the broader market. Priced at over $6,500 for the base model, it was a niche product in a highly competitive landscape dominated by established players like Sun Microsystems and IBM. Manufacturing costs were high, and sales were disappointingly low. Jobs' perfectionism, while leading to beautiful products, also resulted in delays and a lack of focus on cost-effectiveness. As the hardware struggled to gain traction, Jobs made a pivotal decision that would ultimately save Next and, ironically, lead him back to Apple. He realized that the true value of Next lay not in its hardware, but in its groundbreaking software, NextStep. The company shifted its focus from manufacturing computers to developing and licensing its operating system. NextStep was admired by developers for its elegance and power, and it began to gain a reputation as a sophisticated platform for building advanced applications. This strategic pivot was a crucial turning point. While Next never achieved the commercial success Jobs had initially envisioned as a hardware company, its software legacy would prove invaluable. It was a period of intense learning for Jobs, forcing him to adapt and refine his business strategies. He learned the harsh realities of the market outside of Apple's protective bubble, and he gained a deeper appreciation for the importance of software. Unbeknownst to him at the time, the very technology he was nurturing at Next would one day become the foundation for Apple's own resurgence. Chapter 6, Pixar, The Unlikely Success. While Steve Jobs was navigating the complex and often frustrating world of Next, another, seemingly unrelated, venture was quietly taking shape under his ownership. This was a small computer graphics division he had acquired from George Lucas's Lucasfilm in 1986. Jobs purchased the group for a mere $5 million, plus $5 million in working capital, effectively turning a passion project of Lucas's into his own personal gamble. He renamed it Pixar. At the time, Pixar was a small collective of brilliant computer scientists and animators, including Edwin Catmull and John Lasseter, who were pioneering the use of computers to create animated films. Their work was revolutionary, but financially precarious. Jobs saw the potential in their technology, particularly their Pixar image computer, which was designed for high-end graphics rendering. However, like Next, the hardware proved to be a niche product with limited commercial appeal. For years, Pixar was a financial drain on Jobs' resources. He poured millions into the company, subsidizing its research and development, often facing skepticism from those who saw it as a costly hobby. There were moments when he considered selling it, or even shutting it down. But Jobs, ever the visionary, held on, convinced that there was something truly special brewing within those walls. The turning point came not from hardware, but from the artistic side of Pixar's work. The team continued to produce groundbreaking short animated films, showcasing their technological capabilities and their storytelling prowess. Luxo Jr., a charming short film about two desk lamps, released in 1986, was a critical breakthrough. It was nominated for an Academy Award and demonstrated that computer animation could convey emotion and character. This film, along with others, began to attract attention from the traditional animation industry. Jobs, recognizing the potential, began to shift Pixar's focus from selling high-end graphics computers to creating animated content. The dream was to make a full-length feature film entirely with computer animation. This ambitious goal led to a pivotal partnership with Disney, the undisputed giant of animation. After years of negotiation and a complex relationship with then-Disney CEO Michael Eisner, Pixar signed a deal in 1991 to produce 3 computer-animated feature films, with Disney handling distribution and marketing. The first of these films was Toy Story. It was a monumental undertaking, pushing the boundaries of what was technologically possible in animation. John Lasseter, the creative heart of Pixar, led the charge, bringing to life a world where toys had secret lives. Jobs, though not involved in the day-to-day creative process, provided the financial backing, the strategic vision, and the unwavering belief that this film would be a success. He understood the power of storytelling and the importance of marrying art with technology. When Toy Story premiered in November 1995, it was an instant global phenomenon. It was a critical darling, a box office smash, and a cultural touchstone. It proved that computer-animated films could not only compete with, but surpass, traditional hand-drawn animation in terms of storytelling and visual appeal. The film's success fundamentally transformed the animation industry, ushering in a new era of digital filmmaking. The triumph of Toy Story had an immediate and profound impact on Steve Jobs. Just a month after the film's release, Pixar went public. Pixar's IPO was an astonishing success, making Jobs a billionaire, far surpassing the wealth he had accumulated from Apple's IPO. It was a dramatic vindication for Jobs, proving that his instincts, even in an industry completely new to him, were still sharp. Pixar's success not only solidified his financial standing but also restored his confidence and reputation as a visionary leader, paving the way for the most dramatic act of his career yet to come. Part 4, The Return and Renaissance. Chapter 7, The Prodigal Son Returns. As Steve Jobs was basking in the glow of Pixar's unprecedented success, the company he had co-founded, Apple, was spiraling into a deep crisis. After his departure in 1985, Apple had continued to innovate, releasing popular products like the PowerBook. However, a series of missteps, a bloated product line, internal political infighting, and a struggle to adapt to the changing landscape of personal computing had left the company teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. By the mid-1990s, Apple was losing billions, its market share was plummeting, and many analysts believed its demise was imminent. The search for a new operating system to replace the aging Mac OS became critical. Apple had explored various options, including licensing Windows NT or developing its own Copeland OS, but none proved viable. In a desperate move, Apple's then CEO, Gil Amelio, initiated talks to acquire Next, primarily for its advanced Next Step operating system. This decision, seemingly a pragmatic business move, would inadvertently pave the way for the most dramatic return in corporate history. In December 1996, Apple announced its acquisition of Next for $429 million. With the acquisition came Next Step, which would form the foundation of Apple's future operating system, Mac OS X. But more significantly, with the acquisition came Steve Jobs. He returned to Apple in an advisory role, initially dubbed ICEO, Interim CEO. The prodigal son had returned, albeit cautiously, to the company that had cast him out. Jobs' initial days back at Apple were marked by a ruthless efficiency and a clear-eyed assessment of the company's dire situation. He immediately recognized the need for radical change. Apple's product line was sprawling and confusing, with too many variations of the same product. Jobs famously drew a 2x2 grid on a whiteboard, consumer/pro and desktop/portable. His directive was simple: focus on 4 great products, one for each quadrant, and kill everything else. This brutal simplification eliminated dozens of unprofitable products, streamlining operations and allowing Apple to concentrate its limited resources. His return wasn't just about product strategy, it was about reigniting Apple's soul. Jobs understood that Apple's brand had lost its luster. He launched the iconic Think Different advertising campaign in 1997. Featuring black and white images of historical visionaries like Albert Einstein, Martin Luther King Jr., and John Lennon, the campaign celebrated creativity, rebellion, and independent thought, values that Jobs embodied and that Apple once stood for. It was a powerful message that resonated deeply, reminding the world, and Apple's own employees, of what the company truly represented. One of Jobs' most controversial, yet ultimately crucial, decisions was to forge a partnership with Microsoft. In August 1997, at the Macworld Expo, Jobs announced that Microsoft would invest $150 million in Apple and commit to developing Microsoft Office for the Mac for the next 5 years. The announcement was met with boos from some Mac loyalists, who viewed Microsoft as the enemy. However, Jobs explained that Apple needed to embrace its competitors to survive. This strategic alliance provided Apple with much-needed capital, validated its platform, and gave it breathing room to innovate. With the product line simplified, the brand revitalized, and a crucial partnership secured, Steve Jobs was no longer just an advisor. He was firmly back in control, ready to steer Apple away from the precipice and towards a new era of innovation that would once again redefine technology and culture. The wilderness years were over, the Renaissance was about to begin. Chapter 8: The iRevolution. With Steve Jobs firmly back at the helm, Apple was no longer just surviving, it was poised for a spectacular comeback. The stage was set for a series of revolutionary products that would not only save the company but fundamentally reshape entire industries. This period, often referred to as the iRevolution, began with a splash of color and a focus on simplicity. In 1998, just a year after his return, Jobs unveiled the iMac. It was a radical departure from the beige boxes that dominated the computer market. Housed in a translucent, bondy blue casing, the iMac was an all-in-one computer designed for the Internet age. It lacked a floppy drive, a controversial decision at the time, but embraced USB ports, signaling a shift towards modern connectivity. The iMac was an instant hit, selling millions and proving that design, simplicity, and user experience could drive consumer demand. It was a clear statement that Apple was back, and it was thinking differently. The success of the iMac was followed by other innovative computing products, such as the sleek and powerful PowerBook G4, which pushed the boundaries of portable computing. But Jobs' vision extended far beyond just computers. He saw an opportunity to integrate technology seamlessly into people's lives, starting with music. In 2001, Apple launched iTunes, a software application that allowed users to organize and play their digital music. This was quickly followed by the iPod, a portable music player that promised 1,000 songs in your pocket. At a time when portable CD players were clunky and digital music was fragmented by file sharing, the iPod offered a simple, elegant solution. Its intuitive scroll wheel, minimalist design, and seamless integration with iTunes made it an instant cultural phenomenon. The iPod didn't just play music, it redefined how people consumed and carried their entire music libraries. The success of the iPod laid the groundwork for Apple's boldest move yet, the creation of the Apple retail stores. Jobs believed that the best way to showcase Apple's products and provide an unparalleled customer experience was to control the retail environment itself. Opened in 2001, these stores were designed as temples of technology, with spacious layouts, minimalist aesthetics, and knowledgeable staff. They quickly became destinations, transforming the way electronics were sold and setting a new standard for retail. But the true game changer, the product that would cement Apple's legacy and Jobs' genius, arrived in 2007, the iPhone. At its unveiling, Jobs famously declared, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." He delivered on that promise. The iPhone combined a phone, an iPod, and an internet communication device into a single, elegant touchscreen device. Its multi-touch interface, intuitive design, and revolutionary App Store, launched in 2008, created an entirely new ecosystem. The App Store allowed third-party developers to create applications for the iPhone, unleashing an explosion of creativity and functionality that transformed the mobile industry and, indeed, how people lived their daily lives. The iPhone wasn't just a product, it was a platform, a new way of interacting with the digital world. The iRevolution continued with the introduction of the iPad in 2010. Initially met with skepticism by some, the tablet computer quickly found its niche, bridging the gap between smartphones and laptops. It became a powerful tool for consumption, creativity, and education, once again demonstrating Jobs' uncanny ability to identify and define new product categories. Through the iMac, iPod, iTunes, Apple Stores, iPhone, and iPad, Steve Jobs orchestrated an unprecedented period of innovation. He didn't just create products, he created experiences, ecosystems, and entire industries. He proved that design, simplicity, and a relentless focus on the user could triumph over complexity and convention. Apple, under his leadership, had not only returned from the brink but had become the most valuable company in the world, a testament to the power of a singular, uncompromising vision. Chapter 9: The Final Years and Lasting Legacy. By the late 2000s, Steve Jobs had achieved an almost mythical status. He had orchestrated one of the greatest corporate turnarounds in history, building Apple into a global powerhouse. His keynotes were legendary, eagerly anticipated events that transcended mere product announcements, becoming cultural spectacles. Yet, beneath the public triumphs, a private battle was unfolding, one that would ultimately claim his life. In 2003, Steve Jobs was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer, an islet cell neuroendocrine tumor. Unlike the more common and aggressive pancreatic cancers, this type was treatable, often with surgery. However, Jobs, known for his unconventional approaches, initially resisted conventional medical intervention, opting instead for alternative therapies, including a special diet. This decision, which he later regretted, delayed crucial surgery for 9 months. When he finally underwent a successful operation in 2004, the public was largely unaware of the severity of his condition, with Apple only disclosing that he had been treated for a hormone imbalance. Despite his health struggles, Jobs continued to drive Apple's innovation at a furious pace. He oversaw the development and launch of the iPhone and iPad, products that would redefine their respective industries. His public appearances, though sometimes marked by a noticeable gauntness, remained electrifying. He continued to be the face of Apple, the visionary who could command a stage and captivate millions with his presentations. He was determined to keep working, believing that his passion and the pursuit of excellence were the best ways to fight his illness. However, the cancer returned. In 2009, Jobs underwent a liver transplant, a clear sign that his health was in serious decline. He took a 6-month medical leave of absence, with Tim Cook, then Apple's chief operating officer, stepping in to manage the day-to-day operations. Even during his recovery, Jobs remained deeply involved in Apple's strategic decisions, often working from home and participating in product reviews. His dedication to Apple was unwavering, even as his body weakened. As his health deteriorated further, Jobs began to focus more intently on succession planning. He meticulously prepared Apple for a future without him, ensuring that the company's unique culture and commitment to design and innovation would endure. He empowered his leadership team, particularly Tim Cook, to carry forward his vision. On August 24, 2011, Steve Jobs resigned as CEO of Apple, recommending Tim Cook as his successor. He remained chairman of the board, a testament to his continued influence and the respect he commanded. In his resignation letter, he wrote, "I have always said if there ever came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple's CEO, I would be the first to let you know." Unfortunately, that day has come. Just 6 weeks later, on October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 56. The news sent shockwaves across the globe. Tributes poured in from world leaders, industry titans, and countless individuals whose lives had been touched by his creations. Apple stores around the world became impromptu memorials, adorned with flowers, notes, and candles. The world mourned not just a CEO, but a true visionary, an artist, and a relentless innovator. Steve Jobs' death marked the end of an era, but his legacy continues to resonate profoundly. He didn't just build a company, he built an ecosystem, a philosophy, and a way of thinking about technology that prioritizes simplicity, beauty, and the user experience. His impact extends far beyond the devices we hold in our hands. It's in the way we interact with information, consume media, and connect with each other. He taught the world to think different, and his life remains a powerful testament to the transformative power of vision, passion, and the courage to pursue what seems impossible. Part 5, Reflections and Analysis. Chapter 10, The Man Behind the Myth. Having journeyed through the remarkable trajectory of Steve Jobs' life, from his humble beginnings and rebellious youth, through the triumphs and tribulations of Apple, Next, and Pixar, to his triumphant return and the final, poignant years, it's time to step back and reflect on the man himself. Beyond the iconic keynotes and the revolutionary products, who was Steve Jobs, the individual? His was a personality riddled with contradictions, a complex blend of genius and demanding intensity that captivated and frustrated in equal measure. At his core, Jobs was a visionary. He possessed an almost prophetic ability to foresee future trends and to understand what consumers would want before they even knew it themselves. This wasn't just market research, it was an intuitive leap, a deep empathy for the user experience. He believed in the power of technology to empower individuals, to be bicycles for the mind, and he relentlessly pursued this ideal. This vision was often communicated through his legendary charisma, a magnetic presence that could inspire fierce loyalty and motivate teams to achieve seemingly impossible feats. This was the reality distortion field, at its most potent, an ability to bend reality to his will through sheer force of personality and conviction. However, this same intensity often manifested as a demanding, sometimes brutal, management style. Jobs was a perfectionist to an extreme, with an unwavering belief in his own aesthetic and technical judgment. He could be dismissive, cutting, and even cruel to those who didn't meet his impossibly high standards or who challenged his ideas. He believed in direct, often confrontational, feedback, and he had little patience for mediocrity. This approach, while effective in pushing teams to their limits and fostering innovation, also led to high employee turnover and strained relationships. Many who worked with him describe a love-hate dynamic, both inspired and terrified by his presence. His design philosophy was perhaps his most enduring contribution, intertwined with his personality. Jobs championed simplicity, elegance, and user-friendliness. He believed that technology should be beautiful, intuitive, and seamlessly integrated into people's lives. This wasn't just about the external aesthetics, it was about the entire experience, from the unboxing of a product to its internal components. He famously obsessed over details that most users would never see, believing that true craftsmanship extended to every hidden screw and circuit board. This minimalist approach, influenced by his early studies in calligraphy and Eastern aesthetics, became the hallmark of Apple products. Beyond design, Jobs was a marketing genius. He understood that products weren't just about features, they were about stories, emotions, and aspirations. His product launches were theatrical events, meticulously choreographed performances where he played the role of the passionate evangelist. He didn't just present products, he presented a vision of a better future, connecting with audiences on an emotional level. The Think Different campaign was a prime example of his ability to distill complex ideas into powerful, resonant messages that captured the imagination. In his personal life, Jobs was intensely private, fiercely guarding his family and relationships from the public eye. He married Laureen Powell and had 3 children, finding a stability and grounding that had often eluded him in his earlier, more turbulent years. He also reconnected with his estranged daughter, Lisa Brennan Jobs, in later life. Despite his immense wealth and global fame, he often maintained a relatively simple lifestyle, focused on his work and family. Steve Jobs was not a saint, nor was he merely a businessman. He was an artist, an inventor, a showman, and a deeply complex human being. His legacy is not just in the products he created, but in the way he challenged conventions, inspired generations of innovators, and forever changed our relationship with technology. He was the man behind the myth, and understanding his contradictions is key to appreciating the full scope of his extraordinary impact. Chapter 11: The Enduring Legacy. Steve Jobs' life was a whirlwind of innovation, a testament to what a singular vision and relentless determination can achieve. But what is his true legacy? It extends far beyond the sleek devices that populate our homes and pockets. It is a legacy woven into the very fabric of modern technology, business, and culture. At the most fundamental level, Jobs' impact on technology is undeniable. He didn't invent the personal computer, but he made it accessible and desirable for the masses. He didn't invent the MP3 player, but he transformed how we consume music with the iPod and iTunes, effectively saving the music industry from piracy by offering a legal, convenient alternative. He didn't invent the smartphone, but the iPhone redefined it, setting the standard for mobile computing and ushering in the era of the app economy. And he didn't invent the tablet, but the iPad created a new category, proving the viability of a device between a phone and a laptop. His genius lay in taking existing technologies, stripping away complexity, and presenting them in a way that felt intuitive, magical, and indispensable. Beyond individual products, Jobs profoundly influenced the business world. He championed vertical integration, believing that controlling both hardware and software was essential to delivering a superior user experience. This philosophy, initially viewed as risky, became a blueprint for success. He also pioneered the concept of the ecosystem, where hardware, software, and services seamlessly integrate, creating a powerful network effect that locks users into a delightful experience. The Apple retail stores, another of his innovations, revolutionized retail, proving that physical spaces could be powerful extensions of a brand's identity and customer relationship. Culturally, Steve Jobs became an icon. His public persona, from the black turtleneck and jeans to his captivating keynote presentations, made him a recognizable figure worldwide. His quotes, particularly "Think Different," became rallying cries for creativity and nonconformity. He inspired countless entrepreneurs, designers, and engineers to pursue their passions, to challenge the status quo, and to strive for excellence. His life story, with its dramatic highs and lows, serves as a powerful narrative about perseverance, the pursuit of vision, and the courage to fail and rise again. From his life, we can glean several enduring lessons. First, the power of passion. Jobs was driven by an intense love for his work, a belief that he was putting a dent in the universe. Second, the importance of design and user experience. He showed that technology doesn't have to be intimidating, it can be beautiful, intuitive, and even joyful. Third, the courage to be different. He consistently challenged conventional wisdom, whether it was removing floppy drives or insisting on a single button for the iPhone. Fourth, the value of focus and simplification. His return to Apple was marked by a ruthless pruning of products, concentrating on a few great things. Finally, the acceptance of failure as a stepping stone, his ousting from Apple and the struggles of Next were not endpoints but catalysts for growth and future triumphs. Even after his passing, Steve Jobs' influence continues to shape Apple. The company he built has continued to thrive, largely by adhering to the core principles he instilled, a relentless focus on design, user experience, and a willingness to innovate. The tech world, too, bears his imprint, with countless companies striving to emulate Apple's success and Jobs' visionary approach. Steve Jobs was a complex, often contradictory figure, but his impact on our modern world is undeniable and irreversible. He didn't just sell products, he sold a vision of what technology could be, an extension of our creativity, a tool for empowerment, and a seamless part of our lives. His legacy is not merely in the devices we use, but in the enduring spirit of innovation that he ignited, and which continues to illuminate the path forward. Conclusion. We have journeyed through the extraordinary life of Steve Jobs, from his adoption and rebellious youth, through the garage where Apple was born, the meteoric rise and painful fall, the wilderness years of Next and the surprising triumph of Pixar, to his triumphant return and the unprecedented era of innovation that followed, right up to his poignant final days. It has been a story of relentless vision, uncompromising standards, and a profound impact on the world around us. Steve Jobs was, without doubt, one of the most transformative figures of our time. He wasn't just a businessman, he was an artist who chose technology as his medium. He didn't just build products, he crafted experiences that felt intuitive, personal, and, at times, magical. His unparalleled contribution lies in his ability to fuse cutting-edge technology with elegant design, creating tools that empowered millions and fundamentally changed how we work, play, communicate, and create. From the graphical user interface that made computers accessible, to the portable music player that redefined our relationship with sound, and the smartphone that put the world in our pockets, Jobs consistently pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Yet, his story is also a reminder that genius often comes intertwined with complexity. Steve Jobs was a man of fierce contradictions, charismatic yet demanding, inspiring yet sometimes ruthless, a visionary who could also be deeply flawed. He was a master of persuasion, a relentless perfectionist, and a leader who demanded excellence from everyone around him, often pushing them beyond what they thought they could achieve. These very traits, both his strengths and his weaknesses, were integral to his success and to the indelible mark he left on history. In the end, Steve Jobs' life stands as a powerful testament to the power of passion, persistence, and the courage to think different. He reminds us that true innovation isn't just about building new things, but about seeing the world anew, challenging the status quo, and daring to put a dent in the universe. His spirit, his design philosophy, and his relentless pursuit of perfection continue to resonate, inspiring new generations to dream big, create boldly, and never settle for anything less than insanely great.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please don't forget to like, comment and share this video. Also don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon, so that you don't miss out the next video. For now, you can continue with the next video or can go through the complete playlist provided here.